So an elderly man went to a doctor to be fitted with a new state-of-the-art hearing aid. After a month, the man went back for a checkup. "The device is working 100%, Doc," he said. The doctor said, "I bet your family's excited." "Oh, I didn't tell them." "I just sit around and listen to their conversations. I've already changed my will 3 times. Well, yesterday I was out on my ATV and I was gunning it through the woods on my property, and a small limb hit my right eye. I didn't even remember it happening. I mean, I know where it happened because I was cutting a new trail. And it just started aggravating me a little bit when I got done. And then it just started swelling up. And that's why I'm wearing sunglasses. I'm not trying to be cool, because I'm not. But one of our staff came and said, "Pastor Steve, those shades look great on you." I don't know about that, but that's why I'm wearing them. So I just wanted you guys to know that. It's great to be back. I've been gone for a month on a writing study break. I'm writing a book called Strong and Courageous, the 9 habits that can transform your life from fear to courage. And I'm really excited about it. And it's funny, how many of you in this room have written a book before? A few of you, I know. The problem with writing a book is that you always wake up in the morning realizing that a particular part of the book doesn't fit anymore. But then you've got things you've got to do. You've got other stuff you got to do. And then you realize, so you write down, oh yeah, change that part on the habit here, or add this quote. So that's been my life for a month. And that's the reason I took it, you guys, is because with the busyness of what's happening at the road and all the ministries, I just was not ever getting to it and being able to do it. So anyway, 6 or 7 hours of writing a day lends itself to a number. I mentioned to someone that I needed those, what do they call, blue glasses? The ones you use for your computer. And then I got 5. So 5 people gave me blue glasses. So I've got I'll put them all on because I want everybody to feel good. Only kidding. Well, today we're talking about passion for resurrection presence. And if you read the book, if you're reading Wholehearted Man, I started with a story. And for you that haven't read it, I thought I would say it again, how I began that chapter. And that is that, I had resigned from the church, Mountain Springs, and it was a really hard time in my life. And I was at 11 Mile Canyon fly fishing, totally not expecting anything other than a relaxing third day of a 3-day silent retreat that I was on. So I was doing this retreat by myself, talking to no one. That's the reason it's called a silent retreat. And I had taken a little bit of time here that I wanted to be on the river. And what I like to do, you guys, is I'll go to a stream and I'll fly fish for a couple hours. And then I've always got a camping chair, and I go in the bushes or under a tree or something like that, and I spend time with the Lord, and then I fly fish again. So that's what I was going to do. That was the plan. And I'd cast into the river, and then this beautiful doe and her little fawn came into the stream, and I just lost it. With the steam coming off of the river, with the sun coming into the canyon. How many have been to 11 Mile Canyon? A number of you, right? Well, 11 Mile Canyon, I was in that part where the canyon is deep. And so there was a little strip of light from the rising sun at the top of the canyon, but where I was, it was cold and it was dark. And I was overwhelmed. I still get the feeling right now as I tell this story of the beauty of those 2 deer and the majesty of the rising sun in that canyon. And I was so overwhelmed that I had to go sit down. And then I cried, and I cried, and I sobbed for 30 minutes to an hour, I think. I just couldn't quit crying. And when I wrote that book, this next story I'm going to tell you had not happened yet. So 3 years later, I'm in the Telluride area hunting bear. And I got up early. I was staying at this guy's ranch, really beautiful ranch, with the mountains right in front of you. It's just gorgeous. But it's 4 o'clock in the morning. I get up at 4 o'clock, so it's all dark. And I'm getting ready when the presence of God just comes into the room. My only descriptive words that suffice is that I knew God was there. But it was similar to the beauty on 11 Mile Canyon too. It was the same kind of feeling. And I fell to the floor, and I just was prostrate for the next hour or so before the Lord. Well, what I didn't expect was that all of this bitterness and anxiety, maybe even borderline hatred, just welled up in my heart. I didn't even know it was there. And I knew that there were some issues still down deep in my heart. And so I cried to the Lord. I cried to myself. I wept probably 90 minutes. And I saw images. I could see the faces of the people that I felt had wronged me. You realize that sometimes you feel people have wronged you and they maybe haven't wronged you? So I'm telling you what I was experiencing in my emotions and my feelings. And so I gave that to the Lord. And I asked God to give me a spirit of forgiveness for those people that had betrayed me and those people that had either wittingly or unwittingly hurt me. And all I can say to you men this morning is that something lifted. Something came off of me. And I don't know if it was demonic or not. I don't know. But I felt something lift off of me, and I suddenly felt that the burdens were gone. And I was free. I was free. And I've never, ever, that's 5 years ago, or 4 years ago, I've never, ever gone back to the bitterness or the unforgiveness that I felt. I came back to Colorado Springs after that hunt and found those people, called them, took them to coffee. And it was a debate. I had a big debate with my wife. Do I say I forgive you for you being such a jerk? Or do I, and I knew the right answer. She and I both knew the right answer. I went to them and I asked them for forgiveness for the bitterness I had held toward them. I didn't say anything about the incident. I didn't say anything about what had happened because I felt strongly that my responsibility was to have a clean heart before the Lord. It was not my responsibility to make someone else feel like they had wronged me. That's between them and God, and none of those people ever have. But I don't even think about it. I just literally don't think about it anymore. But I went away, and in the last meeting with a pastor in town, I'm driving away. This is like so amazing. I remember that. I don't know if you remember from the book or if any of the messages that I've given here, you remember this. Some of you may not because we're always growing, so you're new to the storyline. But when we were going through this experience of difficulty at that church, the Lord was simultaneously speaking to us 7 times the road less traveled. the road less traveled, that God was in this. That was his prophetic word to us, that he was in this. And that's what when we named the road, we named it the road after the great Robert Frost poem, The Road Not Taken. But the word he gave to us 7 times was the road less traveled. So I just finished up with this conversation of asking forgiveness to this pastor in town. And I got in my truck and I'm driving out. I turn the corner and there's this massive billboard on Garden of the Gods that said, the road less traveled. I don't know what it was advertising or anything, but I just was so moved that God would care enough to give that word again. So when we talk about passion, we're talking about emotions. We're talking about feelings. And that is not easy for men to get in touch with. Women cry, men don't. But I'm challenging you that you would open up your heart to the emotions that God gave you, that they're from God. And that actually emotions and passion are what make you who you are. Passion means to be affected by. And I love this idea that I read somewhere. It's the energy of the soul. It's the energy of the soul. That when you get in touch with your emotions and your feelings, it captures the hearts of the essence of your personhood. Men who do great things for God are men of passion. Men who experience Jesus and his presence at a deep level are men who are in touch with passion. They're in touch with their emotions. One of the ways that you get in touch with your emotions is read great literature. I'm a reader. I love to read. I've read, 15 or 20 books during this month that have nothing to do with what I'm writing on. I just love to read. I learned to love to read in 5th grade, and it's never left me. But from time to time, you need to read books that are maybe either nonfiction, fiction, or autobiographical that touch your heart. Watching great movies, not dumb movies, not always slash and burn and kill movies, but actually emotional movies, because you men need to be in touch with your feelings. It's really hard for us to do. We're almost afraid of it. We run from our feelings. We run from our emotions. And I'm here to tell you that when David dances before the Lord, here's a man whose heart is alive and who is wholehearted. So turn in your Bibles to 2 Samuel 6. And this is our passage today on passion. 2 Samuel 6. And this is a man who is so grateful. So grateful for what God has done. And so it was when those bearing the ark of the Lord had gone 6 paces, that he sacrificed oxen and fatted sheep. Then David danced before the Lord with all his might. And David was wearing a linen ephod. So David and all the house of Israel brought up the ark of the Lord with shouting and with the sound of the trumpet. Now as the ark of the Lord came into the city of David, Michal, Saul's daughter, looked through a window and saw King David leaping and whirling before the Lord, and she despised him in her heart. Here we have 2 reactions to emotions, one from his estranged wife, and then one obviously in David's heart and what he's experiencing. But here's a man who's in touch with his feelings, in touch with his heart, and it's working for him. His emotions are working for him. He's experiencing the presence of God. He's experiencing joy. He's allowing himself the freedom to dive into the emotions that God has given him toward the presence of the Lord. I think what David is experiencing right here is gratitude and joy. From the wilderness as an outlaw to the throne as a king. From the wilderness as an outlaw to the throne as a king. He's just so grateful that God has done this. From a war-torn battlefield to the peace of finally arriving in the beloved city of Jerusalem. David is full of gratitude. I believe David's heart is deluged with sorrow, grief, joy, and gratitude all at the same time. It's all there. And he's dancing and spinning and whirling with pure, unmanipulated emotion, a passionate appreciation for what God has done. It's a mixture of joy and gratitude. In her research, Brené Brown discovered to her surprise that a key concept of wholehearted, healthy people was the relationship between gratitude and joy. So Brené Brown, qualitative sociologist at University of Houston, and the writer of 6 New York Times bestseller books. I've read them all. And she's probably taught me the most about vulnerability and joy. Said this after her, it was over 1,000 different interviews that they did over people who were wholehearted, people who were experiencing joy in their life, that were had solid relationships with others built on positivity. She said this, without exception, every person I interviewed who described living a joyful life or who described themselves as joyful actively practiced gratitude and attributed their joyfulness to their gratitude. Both joy and gratitude were described as spiritual practices that we bound to a belief in human connectedness and a power greater than us. So I'm not here to necessarily talk about gratitude. It's just an example of the emotion that comes when we're thankful for the things that God has given us. But I was at Vance Terry's house for a birthday party for his wife a few days ago. And one of the people who was at the party came up to me, and I've known her for a long time, and she shared, I said, "You look great." And she's in her 60s now. And she said, and she was so excited to tell me she's been sober for 2 years. And she's so funny. I don't know if you remember this, Vance, but she said when we were lighting the candles or something on the cake, or she was putting the cake out, I can remember, she said, "Yeah, when I was 40, I remember my birthday, that's where I got my first DUI. And at 50, at my birthday party, I got my second DUI." And I thought it was great because she was very vulnerable and open, but she also was open to me that 2 years of sobriety. What I said to her was, you know what's great about men and women who have struggled with drugs and even porn and alcohol, who have then walked out into their freedom, is they have an appreciation for what God has done through his resurrection power in their life at a level that some of us don't. And so they can be some of the most beautiful, most powerful Christian people because they're living out of the deep shame, and they're vulnerable and they're open about that shame, and it's setting them free. So today I want to talk about that resurrection power. That's the reason you're going to look at Romans 6 at your table. The resurrection power of Christ, that you might ask God to give you appreciation and gratitude for what Christ has done for you. Let me quote from my book. David's passion of gratitude and joy is enveloped in his conviction of the lordship and presence of Yahweh over his life. This passion overwhelmed and overcame him. David was experiencing the risen Lord over Israel, his kingship, and himself. Arguably, the most important truth of the Christian faith is the resurrection of Christ. Everything about our faith rises and falls on this conviction. But biblical theology's preoccupation with the risen Christ is too often seen only as an apologetic rather than a personal experience. Yet the one who walked the dusty roads of Galilee, who laid hands on the sick, who sat around the fire with his disciples, who drank wine at weddings, who laughed, who cried, and who loves you and me is alive right now. He is risen. He is alive right now in New York City, in California, in Japan, in China, and in Colorado Springs. The present risen Christ is on the earth today. The resurrected Jesus is standing next to you at this very moment. So, Father, we thank you and we praise you this morning that you are risen from the grave. Father, I'm praying for these men that they would experience the emotion of that. That as the days and the weeks and the months go by and they are learning to be the kind of wholehearted men that you've called them to be, that, Lord, for some of us who have had very negative experiences with our emotions, might see it as a positive part of the resurrection power of your Son, Jesus Christ, working within us. So we bless you and praise you in your name. Amen. All right, God bless you guys. You'll have the Live Free.
Good word there, Steve. Hey, any first-timers, if you want to rise up, you're going to follow me. We're going to go into a different room. Any other first-timers that are sitting at a table, if you want to be assigned to a table, come follow me. We'll go through a little first-timer meeting. Thank you.